This is the Growth Podcast. My name is Aaron Chiviterese. Today, I'm sitting down with my buddy, my fellow Canadian friend, Ali Shah, who is the founder and CEO of Tape Reel. And today, we are going to talk about social reality. Ali, welcome to the Growth Podcast, man. Pleasure to have you here.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for this, man. I'm excited for this. We've been chatting briefly before we jumped on. We have a lot of similar ideas and thoughts. We're both Canadian. And I'm excited to chat with you about your app and everything that you're doing. It's very exciting, and I think it's desperately needed in the marketplace.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to having this conversation, see where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into it. So, um, you know, before we get too deep and start talking about fake news and all this BS that we're going to get deep into, because that's what we're fighting against, really. Tell the listeners and the viewers a little bit about yourself, just so that they can get an idea who Ali is.
Sure. So my name's Ali. I've founded a couple of companies before this that ended up being failures. I learned a lot in the process. And we can talk about some of that during this interview as well. And I'm a family man. I've got 5 kids. They're all boys. They're aged 7.5 and under. So they're all very close in age as well. My wife and I always wanted a big family. And yeah, I mean, they are who I wake up for every day. My family is the one who motivates me and keeps me going. And, I want to leave the world a better place for my children. I think that's what keeps me going on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. You always hear people talking about their why. And, when you have a family that you love, that's it right there. Right? Fair enough. That's the
Absolutely.
That's the whole thing, man. That's the juice. Cool. So let's take it back a little ways. Like, when did your entrepreneurial journey begin? Like, when was the first experience you had, putting yourself out there as an entrepreneur?
My earliest memory of entrepreneurship was probably when I was like, 8 years old, 9 years old, actually, on my street. My friend and I used to collect hockey cards. So we had this idea that we would take the cards from our collection, like the duplicates, the extras that we had, and we would glue them back together into like little packets and sell them, and set up a little road stand and sell them to other kids in the neighborhood. And we did that, and we spent the entire day there. And I think we had one customer come who didn't want to buy it. And then one other kid who had just come back from his vacation, and he was vacationing in the US, and he actually had some US dollars on him. So he happened to collect cards, and then he's like, yeah, I want to buy it. Yeah, sure. Like that's pretty cool. So he paid me like $7 US. And I think that's my earliest recollection of the entrepreneurial journey. So I've always had that itch growing up. Like, I want to start something, have a business and grow it and build it, and, coming up with ideas, something new and fresh in the market. That's always been a part of me growing up. And when I was in my 20s, I actually opened up my own restaurant. Well, it was actually a franchise restaurant. It was a Subway, and I owned and operated that for like 3.5 years. That was a roller coaster as well, because the sales in that store weren't, doing too well, and there was other struggles that I was facing with the landlord. And so it was definitely a lot to learn, but I managed to sell that business and move on from it. And then after that, I launched a couple other tech startups. One was called Bubble Finder, and that was a location-based app where you could see the promotions happening at restaurants around you. So if you wanted to know, like, what's the featured menu item at a McDonald's or some other restaurant, you could pull up the app and then see what they were offering. Was it like the sriracha chicken, or what's the walk-in special at the pizza store. And this was like early 2010 when I was launching this app. This was actually before like Uber became very popular. And one of the feedbacks that I got from that app was that, hey, you know what, this is a great app. Now I just wish they would deliver. And at the time, the idea to, use Uber's infrastructure of finding, a driver or that business model and integrating it into my app just was not, in my mind at the time. And so that basically taught me about market timing when it comes to entrepreneurship. Like the timing of something is so important, and then also obviously incorporating user feedback. And then I had another startup after that called AdFits, which was like a rewards-based advertising network where users could participate in ads and actually have a fair value exchange between the advertiser and then the publisher. But I realized the online ad industry is there's many layers to it, and it almost feels like it's like a mafia that's running it, and it's not easy to kind of break in with new models because the status quo, is really deeply entrenched, and there's so many layers, DSPs, SSPs, and all these other acronyms that you got to deal with. It's like navigating that whole world is quite challenging. So, going through those failures was very challenging and difficult, and I decided to take a sabbatical and actually took a journey to South America on my own. I was expecting my fourth son at the time, and I ended up going to a retreat and actually spent some time in the Amazon jungle doing some medicine work as well. And it was through that experience that I kind of woke up, I guess. It was sort of like a soul searching journey. And I realized that all the startups that I was trying to build or work on in the past were not aligned to a purpose that was more meaningful to me. And I think that's part of the reason why they failed. So it was more about just making money or creating some kind of business model, and the intention was not there for it. Anyways, when I came back, I then had the idea for Tape Reel. It used to be called Tape Book. We recently went through a rebrand and renamed it. And it's basically a social reality network where you can come as you are, in a world of deep fakes and filtered images and fake news. Tape Reel is aspiring to be a place where people can just connect and record either solo tapes or conversations with friends or loved ones, and actually create a photo album of their memorable conversations.
Oh, I see. I got you. That's cool. That's really cool. Okay, before we get into Tape Reel, because that's a great concept. That's a great concept. I want to go deeper into that in a bit. Let's take it back a couple steps. So for the listeners out there who are possibly new to entrepreneurship or new to building businesses, you, like myself, have had multiple experiences in kind of multiple industries, and we've felt what it feels like to have success and failure in the roller coaster of entrepreneurship. And what you're saying is, when you started focusing more on purpose, the businesses had more success in the light of success that you wanted, the type of success you wanted, right? And you found the purpose by going deep within and doing some medicine work and going on a journey, right?
Right.
What would you say to somebody who is possibly out there right now listening, like, oh man, whatever, that's bullshit. I'm just doing this for the money. I know I have an idea that's going to make me money. When I have money, everything will be better. Like in the future, it will be better because I'll have money because of this thing I'm doing. What would you tell that person if you could maybe go back and talk to yourself or talk to a younger version of you who's still in that state, who maybe hasn't had that awakening? What would you tell that person?
Well, I mean, I, that's a very deep question. um,
It is deep. We go deep.
an example that comes to my mind is Jim Carrey, right? He also had this idea of what success was, and he wanted to pursue money. He has that. Um, it's very well known that he wrote himself a check that he would cash in the future, and he kept it in his wallet wherever he went, and he eventually cashed it. But if you watch some of his videos or content on YouTube now, he's a very different person, and he's quite explicit in explaining that once you achieve that success and that monetary goal that you may have, it doesn't really lead to happiness. There's still a void. And I just feel like the money aspect of it, you know, there's been studies done on it as well, where after a certain point, any incremental amount of money that you make doesn't add to your happiness in any way. And so there's like a threshold that you eventually reach, or a ceiling. Um, Now, a part of this is also driven by the culture that we live in. The media, the the celebrities showing off all the luxurious items that they're wearing, and going to expensive resorts, um, and then obviously when you read stories in TechCrunch, all you experience the founder's journey in an article as if it just happened within a few snaps of fingers. They had the idea, they put together an MVP, they pitched it, they landed $10 million Series A, and now they're like blitz scaling, they're gonna IPO, and Google bought them out for billions.
Yeah. It
And
was
you're
4
like,
weeks.
wow, like, yeah, like that's an amazing recipe for success, right? Like, if somebody can do that, why can't it be me? I've got some great ideas too. But in reality, the journey is very challenging, and it will test you along the way. The way I like to describe entrepreneurship and founding companies, it's sort of like parenting. And I say it because now I'm a parent and I see the similarities. When you have a baby, it keeps you up at night. You need to feed it, you have to nurture it, you got to help it grow, and you got to be there for it, and you got to give it positive feedback. And sometimes it'll even drive you nuts, right? It's like, ah. But you need to be the rock in that person's life. You need to be the captain of the ship. And that's the same thing with startups. You quickly learn that, in order to make this uh, a successful company, or um, to create purpose around it, you have to be a leader. And when things aren't going rosy, when challenges come up, you have to keep people motivated and moving in the direction of that vision, that purpose. And that purpose and vision has to hold greater value than monetary success, or um, anything else, because that is what I think adds meaning into people's lives too, and it'll keep them going because they will believe in that vision and that purpose. So through all the highs and lows, you have to be laser focused on that vision for yourself and for your team. And truthfully, it's really difficult to do that all the time. you know you're basically like, you're a human being, so you might have some ups and downs that you're dealing with at the same time as a founder or a CEO. And maybe you'll second guess your decisions, and that can have a ripple effect on the team, because now the team is questioning your management style. Oh, you're always, you're not being decisive, you don't appear decisive. um, and self-doubt can also creep in. And I personally think self-doubt is probably a bigger killer of startups than even product market fit. Because if the founder doesn't believe in what he's building, and doesn't believe in that vision, it's very easy for it to just fail, because nobody else is going to adopt that vision for you. And so, you know, that's some of the things that I'm learning along the way here, when it comes to startups and this journey that we're on.
Yeah,
Um,
totally. It's a never ending journey, actually, right? It never ever ends. People think like, oh, when I reach a certain level, everything is cool. No, the lesson that I've learned and that I know I know it to be true now is that if you're not happy with where you are now, regardless of where you are, no matter where you get to, you won't be happy then either, because you're the same person.
exactly.
You're the same. Everything's the same, right? We've both, I don't know if you've been totally broke, but I've been definitely way in the red, business failure. And I've also had great times. And when I look back and I think about like my now moment, the whole time I've been the same person. It's just,
Yeah.
you wake up, you do your thing. Like do you exercise or don't you? Like, do you meditate that day or don't you? Like, do you eat healthy? Do you not? Do you love your family? Do you not? Like, you're the same human. Just that other stuff is something you're dealing with and working on, but you're the same guy or girl, right? It's interesting you
Absolutely.
bring up the thing about reaching a certain status and not having happiness when you get there. I bring this up a few times and I'll bring it up again. Gary V, perfect example. He always talks about it. He's always saying, I'm going to buy the jets. I'm going to buy the jets. That's his big goal. I'm going to buy the jets. But he also says, and he's very self-aware, obviously, he's a very switched on human being. He says, the day I buy the jets is going to be the worst day of my life.
Yeah.
Because then what? Right? Like, okay,
Exactly.
so I've reached the top of the mountain. Damn it. Now what? Like, okay, there has to be a new top. Now, he says that to give a lesson to all of his followers. He's using his platform to teach, which I can respect. But we all know Gary Vee as a guy, as a human, as an entrepreneur, when he gets to the top of the mountain and gets the jets, he for sure will have a new mountain ready to climb. He'll already have something in his sights. So there's no way it'll be the end all be all when he does buy that, I'm sure. But the
Of
lesson's
course,
there.
it'll be the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be okay. Now we need to win the Super Bowl. Exactly. There'll always be something. There'll always be something. It's interesting. So when you were going through your highs and your lows and you're on your inward journey and doing a lot of self-reflection and things, can you talk to us a little bit about sort of your internal practices that you went through to sort of draw out your inner desires and passions and kind of align yourself with what you wanted to truly bring to this world and impact? Like, did you journal? Did you meditate? What did you kind of do to pull this out of you during this transitional moment in your life when you were transforming?
Well, initially, I mean, you kind of try and, I mean, this is from a very personal experience, but I went through some dark phases in between. So it was almost like, you realize that you failed at something, and then you have to basically communicate that to, well, I mean, you can choose not to communicate it and just hopefully nobody will ask you about it again, or you got to own up to it and face yourself in the mirror and tell people about it. And that was part of the healing process for me, because um you know aside from maybe going through some intoxicated periods
Mm-hmm.
to try and drown out memories or stuff like that, it was not healthy. It didn't serve me, but it made me realize that I need to own up and face this reality and talk to people about it and let them know. And so that's what I did. I wrote a blog post about it. I said, you know what? My startup bubble finder is dead. Here's what I learned. And I kind of documented that process. And that was helpful in the healing. And it helped me, you know, uh, create a stronger foundation for the next idea that I wanted to work on. And each time it's kind of helped me uh, almost like, when you build a house, you lay down the foundation, but in that foundation you can consider those to be your mistakes where you learned a lot. And then after that, once you're ready to start building the actual structure, you put the wood around it, and then when you start scaling, you can think about like the inside decor and the experience and whatnot. So
Mm-hmm.
when I think about it in that analogy, um, that healing process I think was very important. And that involves telling family and friends and your colleagues about it, because they'll ask you, hey, you were working on it, how was it going? So you have this social pressure to contend with. And then obviously you have to let your team know that, okay, you know what, we're not going to be continuing with this, or maybe any other suppliers or people that you're working with. And And so it's a real human experience. And I felt like I, learned some emotional intelligence along the way. And I mean, that was one way of, uh, finding solace in the failure. Um, Now, we tend to put a lot of care into how people in organizations are feeling, and they've got a channel to speak to their managers, but who do founders and CEOs really have, right? Because they're at the sort of at the top of the food chain. Sure, they could maybe reach out to their board, but usually in the early stages, a startup may not have an actual board with the right people in there, and it might also not be the right conversation to have with the board. But so one thing I learned is that it's important to have some kind of executive coach or even a therapist to kind of help you talk things through and figure out how you are dealing with everything along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Interestingly enough, I had an executive coach on the podcast the other day, and he was talking about this very much so, and I was like, oh yeah, that's serious. It's such an important role, actually, to be able to bounce things and talk and speak truth to someone who's objective, right?
Yes.
Someone who's completely objective, and they're actually there to help you, not with some bias or with some agenda, right?
Right.
Totally.
Absolutely. I mean, I would avoid consultants.
Yeah,
um,
strong word.
but yeah, because I mean, like, I think consultants are a little bit different there. They have, like, they'll try and maybe advise you on what their belief system is, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, if it's a startup, it's got to be your vision and you have to be committed to it. Consultants will, if you end up hiring a consultant early on, they can taint your overall objective or your idea of what the future should look like, and that can also affect you negatively.
Yeah.
Plus, they're costly.
It can muddy the waters a little bit and costly. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're referring to more of like a pure coach, someone who's there to ask you questions and draw out of you what you're thinking and what you're going through and discuss that as a coach.
Exactly.
Right. As a coach.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally. Cool, man. Okay. So yeah, let's talk about that, because that's a huge thing, right? Everybody knows about, Instagram, Trump talking about fake news, social media, just people putting out the highlight reel of their life, and giving a very false narrative as to reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm hearing from you is that when you went through your transformation and moving more towards heart-centered business that you're passionate about, that you want to impact, and getting into things like tape reel, having an authentic interaction between people that's not edited, not cut, and it's just raw, right? This is actually the thing that helped you get through, was talking to people about your experience and being vulnerable, right? And putting yourself out there and just being like, yeah, this is what happened, guys. Here it is, raw and uncut. And that helped you, right? So
Absolutely.
now you're putting this into a business, and I can 100% see the connection. That's very cool. That's very cool. So I like that. So let's talk a little bit about Tape Reel then. This is your app that you're coming out with now. Talk us through this. What are some of the details on that? Because that sounds very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's as you mentioned, we live in a world where these sort of technology and these networks and tools have shifted our idea of what it's like to communicate with people and express ourselves. And basically, they gave us a status box. They gave us an ability to upload pictures, share links, and apply filters and really alter the reality of something that might be very personal to you. And I just always felt like, even when I uploaded stuff to Instagram in the beginning, I was like, okay, yeah, it's cool to put all these filters in. But then I'm like, what kind of, image am I putting out there? It's almost like it creates a split in your personality. Like you have a version of you that's online and then a version of you in real life. And in the long run, I feel like, me personally, it's difficult to reconcile the two, because now you've got a split in who you are. And, you know, I personally felt like it's harder for me to like just face myself every day, because it's like now I got to deal with two different personas, right? I can't be myself, essentially. And so that's part of the reason why on Tape Reel we don't have any filters. We don't have any augmented reality. You can't put like doggy filters on your head and take a picture of it, right? It's more about just, hey, you know what? I can come on here and just be myself. Just like when I go out, I don't put on a filter, on who I am. In fact, that's like an idea for a commercial that I've been thinking about, where it's like somebody is going out to a restaurant and they're deciding which filter to wear. Should I wear Amaro? Should I wear Nashville? Should I, you know what I mean? And then they go to a restaurant and the one person is dressed like a filter and all the other people are just kind of just being themselves. Like, okay, well, why is this person dressed differently, right?
Wearing a costume.
But yeah, exactly. Like,
Halloween.
you're precisely. So, I think it's important, and especially now that I have kids, like, while these things are kind of cool, like they have a cool factor to them, in the long run, like, I mean, I think about the net effect that it's going to have on people and society, right? Is it making the world a better place? And I feel like, a place where you can be yourself, express yourself, and just come as you are. I think that is the most authentic, and also think it's the most easiest thing for other people to appreciate as well. That vulnerability, they'll feel like, okay, well, this person is just like us. There's no difference. Even with celebrities, right? There was a trend towards the end of 2019 where Rihanna was posting a picture of herself without makeup. Other celebrities like the Kardashians were taking pictures and showing like their stretch marks, and it wasn't, and they got a lot of positive feedback for that, for being that vulnerable and showing like, hey, you know what, they're human too. Yes, they've got millions of followers, but that's who they are, and you can actually respect a person more as a result of it. So that's kind of where my goal with Tape Reel is to just create a place where people can come, connect, share who they are, and be themselves. And originally it was built as a network where you can only have conversations with people and record them and share them. But then users wanted to, also express themselves solo, and then we added the ability to add audio comments, so you could still have like conversations, but they're like time shifted. They're not really in real time, and so you don't have to coordinate with other people. You can kind of express yourself, and people can comment and still engage with you that way. And then the fact that we didn't just have audio, we also have video. It's kind of created a very unique environment where sometimes people will share tapes in audio format, and other times they'll do it in video. So that having that flexibility, I think, was important. We didn't want to be just another social audio network or just the video only network. And so because sometimes you're not dressed, you're in your pajamas, you don't really want to share a video, but you still want to express yourself, so you have that audio option.
Mm-hmm. So there's no typing, am I right? There's no typing inside there?
You can you have the option to leave a text comment.
Okay. But not for uploading.
If you really want. but not for uploading. So there's no pictures, there's no, I mean, even when you share a link, if you want to share a link, you have to actually share an audio or a video first. And a lot of people are doing that, where they'll be like, hey, you know what? I came across this. This is what I thought about it. And this is why I think you should listen to it. And then they'll add the link in the comments. So all that other stuff becomes secondary, and the people are front and center.
I see.
Right? So we're trying to put people first.
That's good. I like that. Yeah. So they're actually giving their 2 cents on why they're sharing and what they're getting from it. And then this is, check it out. If you want to check it out, it's here. Right.
Exactly. And, you know, a lot of these other social networks have made it so easy to share stuff online that people don't think twice about it. And that was one thing that I wanted to change in terms of behavior is, okay, well, when you come on tape reel, you actually have to put some conscious thought into what it is you're sharing and why. And so automatically your frame of reference and maybe even the quality of content gets better as a result of it, because there's a person, there's a voice, there's an intention behind it. With traditional social media, you can fire off a tweet and say whatever you want behind an avatar and basically create polarization in your community for the sake of getting more tweets and likes and comments, right? But are you adding value to the world? Like, is it making the world a better place? Is it helping humanity move forward? Or are we just getting into shouting matches online, right? And creating more division between people, especially at a time where we have to come together and know and realize that we are all in this together.
Absolutely. Especially right now. We're recording this in the middle of April. It's just the dead center of this coronavirus. So yeah, let's talk about that then, right? I mean, we had a chat before we jumped on about how we feel that this is the catalyst for a great awakening. It's forcing people to be in their house, looking in the mirror, seeing if they are in love with their life. They have no choice right now, literally no choice, but to go inside and think about stuff, because there's nothing else to do. Either you're expanding and growing and building business, working on yourself, spending time with your loved ones, or you're contracting in fear and you're kind of balling up. And when this all breaks open and the world gets turned back on, it's going to be very obvious who was working on themselves and their businesses and who wasn't, right? And I believe you obviously are quite hard. And since you have a social networking company, what's it like right now during the virus time? How do you see your numbers, and how do you see people, like, do you see crazy changes happening with all the people sitting at home on their phones?
Well, we are seeing an influx of downloads. We actually pulled back on our marketing so that we could do the rebrand, and we're working on a premium version right now. So just naturally and organically, people are finding us, and we're experiencing more downloads on a daily basis. The cool thing is that some people were actually using tape reel almost like a public journal or a diary, just to kind of maybe for their own sanity. And they were just explaining, hey, you know what, this is what happened today. This is what I'm doing. This is how I'm feeling. You know, why am I feeling this way? Or they would, you know, they'll ask the community a question, and then people will comment and, you know, give them advice or say, hey, I'm feeling the exact same way. And so the community has been very tight knit. And I'm actually glad that we are growing at a steady rate, not like waking up one day and you have 50,000 users. With this slow organic growth, I feel like the community is more tight, and people, you know, are getting to know other people a little bit more, and it just creates a more authentic and organic environment, as opposed to, you know, something that's driven by media.
Yeah, it goes right back to the core of the whole vision, right? Like, it's completely in alignment with your vision, rather than running a million ads and having some spokeswoman supermodel be like, buy this cool new app or join this new platform. It's awesome. You're just letting the people organically come across it, resonate with it, join it, see what's up, and go from there, right? So it's totally on brand to grow that way, right?
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
and also I think the feedback we're getting from the early adopters has been really good. They've actually helped us refine the product and make it better. And when they see that, they appreciate it more. They feel like they have a vested interest in the success of it. And they see some of their own ideas come to life on the platform, which is kind of special. So they become ambassadors or advocates of it. And, I think traditionally, especially the pre-corona world, the mindset was very different. It was more about growth at all costs, or, sometimes even duping people into subscribing or becoming, um, you know, um, paid members, and then not really delivering on the results for it. It was more about just to show that their numbers were skyrocketing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, I feel like personally, I think the intention is so important behind what you're doing. And the intention is tied to your purpose and the world that you want to see in the future, and what does that world look like. And so I feel like those have to be in alignment in order for you to be really passionate about waking up every day and pursuing that goal or vision.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's amazing timing that the world is in this moment. Authenticity is like raining down upon us because people are stuck at home and they're connecting at home. So people are, what else is interesting on a side note, you and I are doing a lot of Zoom meetings anyway already. We're internet working people, right? So like Zoom is not foreign to us. But for a lot of people that are at home working for the very first time remotely, they're now using Zoom or similar softwares, and they're working from home, and people are seeing their background at their house, or maybe the kid runs by or something. And it's like, the CEO of the company who you never see in that light, all of a sudden you see them, or you see like a news anchor on TV or just whatever it may be. And the whole world is being like, at least from my perspective, I'm seeing everyone. I'm like, oh yeah, normal person, normal person, normal person, normal. Everybody's seeing that, right? I think it's just
Right.
amazing. It's amazing. And your app is that essentially in a nutshell. It's that style of communication. So it's like this whole world crisis is an awakening, and your timing with what you're doing just fits it perfectly, which is a very cool thing. I think we need more platforms like yours. I wish everybody would be more authentic with themselves and representing their true self and their authenticity. It's important. And the world's a better place because of it, right? So thank you for leading the charge on that. I think it's very cool, man.
Oh, well, thank you. Those are very kind words. You know, we talked about timing as well. Like in my previous startups, I missed the mark. It's just the timing was off, and uh, having a startup, sometimes you can be too early or you can be too late to the market. And this whole thing just kind of happened on its own. Like it's not like I had anything to do with it, but I just happened to be in this space and time continuum, and the sort of the ground appears to be fertile. So we're going to continue. I mean, that's the message that I've given our team and our community, is that we're not going to bail on you because of this virus. We're that much more invested in seeing this through, and we're going to continue pushing forward. And so we're actually releasing our tapes, which were only available on the app. We're going to be releasing it to the web, so people can record right from their phone. It'll automatically get published to the web in real time. You can copy like the link to that tape and share it on social media, or you can embed it on your own website, and just want to make it easier for people to create audio video content on the fly, and just have that seamless experience in a very authentic and genuine way.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. It's awesome, man. Okay, so for the viewers and the listeners who want to go check out Tape Reel and come find you on social media, see everything that you and your team are up to, where can they find you?
So our website is tapereel.com, and our social channels are all on there as well. I haven't been keeping up to date on those channels as much. I like to tell people that if you really want to know what's up with us, download Tape Reel and follow us on there, because that's where we express ourselves and share what we want to say to the world. So, you know, I feel bad kind of promoting the other channels.
I hear what you're saying. If you want to find
Yeah,
Ali, you go find him on Tape Reel.
exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, come on, right? Exactly. So Tape Reel it is. Tape Reel, you're on the App Store, the Android store. Where are you?
We're on the App Store. Android's under development, and
Okay.
so it'll be hopefully ready this summer. We were hoping for spring, but with this whole remote work situation and everything, it kind of set us back about a month and a half. So we're hoping Android by summer, and definitely more features and new ways to meet people on Tape Reel and connect with them. So stay tuned for that.
Very cool, man. I'll be downloading it as soon as we get off here. I'll come find you right away and
Yeah.
send you a tape. That's all.
Or we
Is
can,
that what you call it? Send a tape?
well, you can record your own tape. It gets published to a tape feed, like a tape
Ah,
reel, basically. And so it's in chronological order. So you're not fighting like algorithms trying to figure out, okay, I'm gonna upload a video to YouTube. How's YouTube gonna manage the algorithm for it? It's basically in
chronological.
yeah, exactly. So
Easy.
everyone kind of has their time in the spotlight, so to say, in the community.
Cool. I love
And
it.
it's like having a campfire, and then each person kind of has a turn to express themselves.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome.
That's the way it's sort of turning out by
Yeah,
itself.
cool. It's
Yeah.
like a truth
So if
circle.
you want, we can record a tape, and yeah, we can record a tape and also promote your podcast on there, and tell
Yeah,
people
let's
about it
do it,
as well.
man.
So
Let's do it.
do that.
I'll be on there as soon as we jump off right away. That's awesome. I can't wait. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for hopping on the Growth Podcast here, Ali. I appreciate your time. I love what you're doing. Go find his tape reel on the App Store and upload some tapes. You know, be authentic, be yourself. Thanks so much, Ali.
Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the show.